Hi Ada Fellows, welcome to my second home, the Munich Olympic Park. My name is Benjamin Jaksch and I get to take you along today and talk to you about the topic of learning. Why am I doing this? I work as a learning coach with individuals and in groups, and I look at the topic of self-organized learning together with people. Learning usually works best when we are curious beforehand. And it benefits us that we humans are naturally curious. My favorite quote on this comes from Ken Robinson, which is, "Humans are naturally curious learning organisms." The older we get, the harder it is for us to comprehend that we're naturally curious. Especially now, maybe in college, in school, you've noticed that it's sometimes very difficult for us to remember things. And this is of course true for numbers, dates and facts. But there is one thing that we can naturally remember purely from an evolutionary perspective, and these are places. It has always been vital for humans to know, where do I get my energy from? Where is the bare bush? Where is the water? And I had to remember that naturally. And when we learn something new, especially when we acquire a new skill, we always proceed in 4 stages. There's a model by Lowell Birch, which is called competence level development. The lowest level is called unconscious incompetence. This means we don't even know what we can't do. And as soon as I observe a person doing something that somehow appeals to me, interests me, but I realize for myself I can do that. No, I'm already moving on to the next level. And the next level is what's called conscious incompetence. I would like to show you an example. Imagine you are watching someone who, balancing on such a railing, finds it cool, somehow attractive, interesting, but you can't do it yourself. Then you can basically decide, am I so curious that I want to try it out? Does it appeal to me somehow? And then you basically get to the next level when you start trying it out. Specifically, the so-called conscious competence. So when you start doing and trying this out, then you'll probably have trouble doing that at the beginning. Do it, because you also need your full consciousness. You have to fully concentrate on the matter and can't do anything else while you're at it. But it has a wonderful function in our brain. That is, the more we practice, the more we exercise, we can eventually do this competence, this balancing on the railing. And if we can talk at the same time, like I am doing right now, then we are on the right track. Here we are on the top stage of human competence development, specifically on the so-called unconscious competence. And unconscious competence means, as I just said, I can do something. And at that moment, I may not even be aware of what I'm doing, and I can already focus on something else. And this has many advantages on one hand, but it also has its disadvantages. The advantages are, of course, obvious, because without this kind of competency development, we would probably not be capable of living. We couldn't talk while walking, and we could only ever do exactly one thing and somehow not develop further. The disadvantage is that this type of competence level development partially blocks our curiosity, because we then have fixed ideas about the outside world so that we can talk about the outside world and somehow sort things out. It's very important that you don't forget that learning is not a linear process. Learning doesn't go from level to level and always upwards, but learning is a cyclical process. And I always talk about 4 levels. There are other models that use 3 or 5. But for me, it makes sense to use these 4 steps. The first is to try out. The second is to inform. The third is implementing. And the fourth is reflecting. And when all these come together, then you will notice how you progress bit by bit.